In the world of car racing, the competition is fierce over who owns the fastest car. But the surprise is that the one who will compete with us today is not a car, but an animal, and the slowest animal as well, a snail. Our movie begins with a snail named Sio, who imagines himself in a speed race and also competing with the fastest racer in the world, whose name is Gani. He lives in his dream until his brother Chet appears and tells him go to sleep so they can sleep. Sio continues to live in his dream that he is a fast racer and also made himself a racing track and sets a new record and walks a full meter in just 17 minutes. The next morning, the snails wake up, go to work, and walk around the garden looking for tomatoes. A crow passes by them and snatches one of them. But they continue normally because they are used to it. Their journey begins with collecting tomatoes, and Sio's role is to receive the tomatoes from the tree. But even this simple role he is not able to do, and the rest of the snails make fun of him. His brother sits and talks to him, and Sio does not find himself in the life of snails. His brother tries to reason with him and says to him, "Bro, you are slow. Get over yourself a little. This is your life and your nature." But Sio keeps his mind to himself and no one will change his mind. The destroyer appears, who is a little boy riding a bike. They declare a state of emergency. They all enter their snails except Sio, who is the only one walking and confident. Fortunately for him, he does not see him. That same day at night, Sio sits and watches the racing program, in which his role model, Gani, appears. He is about to say how to be fast, but the TV goes off. Sio tries in every way to fix the signal, but unfortunately, he causes the TV to break. The next day, they return to their routine life again. Chet tries to reason with his brother like every day, but to no avail, until they find a very ripe tomato and want to take it with them. Unfortunately, it falls into the garden next to the gardener who mows the ground. At that moment, Sio goes crazy and decides to go save it and bring it back to them. His brother tries to stop him, but he can't. Sio goes down and looks at the tomatoes intently, imagining that there is a race and that he has to run after it and catch up with it. He keeps running until he comes to his senses and sees that there is a tractor that will kill him. His brother saves him and the rest of the snails with a water hose. Sio continues the day sadly. He walks in the dark streets thinking that what his brother said is really true. He will never be fast or anything. He walks, wishing that one day he will be fast like the cars on the road, until one of them comes and blows Sio away. He keeps moving from one car to another until he reaches a racing car, and he is very happy while sitting on top of the car while it is racing. But because of the air pressure, he sucks into the car's engine and swallows a large amount of nitrogen dioxide. It is a gas that they use to increase the speed of cars. He wakes up the next day unconscious. A group of cockroaches carry him. He quickly pushes them away. He hides from the crow until he reaches the nearest garage. There, he notices something strange happening to him and a big change. Like his eyes light up like the headlights of cars. Even his back lights up if he bumps into something. Shio is terrified of what is happening. Shio gets home. There is a very important meeting going on. But suddenly, songs play inside him as if he won. So Shio walks quickly before anyone makes fun of him. He meets the Terminator who runs towards him on his bike to run him over. But Sio suddenly runs away from him at a very high speed. The Terminator tries to catch up with him by any means. He doesn't know how, and Sio makes him scared and runs to his house. He doesn't know how to stop the wheel, so he enters the snails and destroys all their stock. He is about to apologize to them, but Carly, the leader of the snails, expels him and his brother from their union. He tells them, "From now on, I won't see your faces here again." Because of this, Chet fights with his brother, who always stood by him and tried to help him with anything that was on his mind. But in the end, he is the reason that he became a homeless snail on the streets. He is about to continue his fight with him, but a crow arrives from far away. It takes his brother and flies away. Sio's heart beats quickly, and something moves inside him, and he runs very quickly after his brother. He keeps chasing him from building to building until he finds a high building and climbs up and hits the crow, and they both fall. The crow keeps eating Cheat, but Sio saves him, and the crow eats him instead of Cheat. Sio keeps moving quickly inside the crow until the crow takes him out and runs away quickly. Cheat is shocked by what happened, so Sio stops him to calm him down. He goes from shock to shock. A huge young man arrives and fills them both in a cup and takes them with him in his car. They both find themselves in a very terrifying place in front of terrifying people staring at them. They wonder what their fate will be. Will they die, or will they be eaten, or what? Sio and Cheat are very terrifying, until they find themselves on a racing track with several other snails who are used to this thing. The race starts, and they all start moving, but Sio amazes them and runs very fast and wins the race. All those standing around do not understand how he could do this. Even the snails themselves do not know what is happening. As for Tito, the big young man, he carries him and is very impressed by him, and also shows him to his brother. But his brother yells at him because he left their work in the taco cart that they made and is playing with the snails. Tito returns to his room with Sio and Cheat and makes a small bed and a blanket from the tacos for Sio, and leaves Cheat with him, just because he feels that there is a relationship between them. As soon as he leaves, the Snail team enters, which consists of Whiplash the leader, Skidmark, Bear, and with them Smooth Move and White Shadow. CEO introduces them to himself, but by the name he always wanted to be called, Turbo. He is surprised by the introduction they gave him, and in the end, Whiplash tells him that he agrees to join them on the team. Turbo speaks to them arrogantly and tells them that unfortunately they are too slow for him to join them. The legendary challenge that they do between the slow snails and the super snail Turbo takes place. The challenge is that whoever reaches the star first is the one who wins. Turbo is confident that he will be the one who wins. The surprise is that as soon as the race starts, he sees crazy moves from the entire team. They are very fast, and Turbo tries to keep up with them by any means. But their methods require a lot of experience, not just a snail that gained a superpower. The whole team arrives before Turbo, and he stands amazed by them and how cool they are. The next day, Tito is standing hanging the new banner that he will use to advertise their tacos using snails. Chet talks to Turbo to wake them up from the life they are living and tries to reason with him. Tito enters and keeps making fun of Chet, thinking he is Turbo's girlfriend. When Chet leaves, Tito sits with Turbo and is sad and doesn't know how to convince the people and his brother that Turbo is fast and can help them in their work. Until a car with a song advertisement and the name of a car race appears from behind Tito. Turbo runs around it to alert Tito, and as soon as Tito sees the advertisement, the idea lights up in his eyes. The problem is that he needs a respectable amount of money to be able to apply for the race. So he goes to talk to his big brother, and Turbo also goes to talk to his brother to get his approval. The both of them shout at them completely and utterly reject their idea. Tito does not give up, and the next morning he goes to his friends in the neighboring shops and presents them with the idea. In return, when Turbo becomes famous, he will promote all their shops with him, and they will get a lot of customers. They refuse because the amount is big. At that time, the Fast Snails team decides to act and intervene. They actually cut off a way of the school bus and divert it to Tito and his brother's taco truck. This act brings them a lot of customers, and not only them, but the rest of the shops as well. As soon as the day ends, Tito feels proud in front of his brother and tells him, "Come on, let's participate in the race." His brother refuses again, and Tito leaves sadly, because then he has no chance to achieve what he wishes for. But his friends from other shops bring him money and decide to follow him one last time. The next morning, Tito leaves a letter for his big brother telling him that he is going to the race. Their journey begins on the way to the famous car racing championship, and they have to prepare Turbo. They all start modifying Turbo and making a case for his shell, and also choosing a name for him, which is Turbo, with the help of snails, of course. Chet is the only one who is upset and goes on this journey against his will, and every now and then he tells his brother a few words, until they arrive at the racetrack and are amazed by everything they see of cars and racers. Turbo goes to watch Gani, who achieves a new record of 230 miles per hour. As for Tito, he stands at the reception trying to participate in the race. The employee doesn't want to let him participate in the race because he doesn't belong to a big company or a respectable official sponsor. When he leaves the place upset, a good idea comes to Turbo's mind. Tito drags Gani, who is standing among the journalists, and says a few words of his to make him trend. He points to Tito on the supervisor, who makes Tito understand what Turbo wants from him. He goes in front of the media and introduces Turbo to them, and tells them that today he will show them the miracle snail. Turbo runs a lot of laps on the track. Everyone is amazed by him, and even a little boy takes a picture of him and posts it on social media. Turbo achieves a record that surpasses Gani and reaches 238 miles per hour. After this meeting, the news spreads on social media very quickly. Videos and songs are also made for Turbo. Tito takes advantage of what happened and announces the location of his and his brother's cars, increasing the demand for them. After this great fame, the person in charge of the competition comes out and announces that he does not agree to a snail participating in a car race. Tito tries to get him to agree, but he refuses for the second time. Gani, who wants to take the shot in the media, steps forward and starts chanting Turbo's name, so that the tournament boss agrees to let him participate. He is sure that he will win him over anyway, so he takes the shot and that's it. The tournament boss agrees, and Tito is happy in front of the people that Turbo will participate in the tournament. They all go to celebrate the success they achieved with the miracle Turbo. The only one who is upset about what is happening is his brother Chet, who slaps him in the face and says to him, "Bro, you're not a car, you're a snail," meaning, as soon as you're put in the middle of all these cars, consider yourself dead. Turbo gets annoyed by his words because he is his brother, and despite that, he is the only one who always discourages him and leaves him and walks away. He goes to Ganem's garage and is amazed by his racing car, until Gani enters and Turbo is standing alone with his idol for the first time. That's why he is very happy, and Gani carries him in his arms and tells him, "Great, the competition that will be between us is a fierce competition between the loser and the best. But the end is known anyway. The best is always the one who wins. But you, I will crush you like a cockroach, or you really are the cockroach." He throws him out of the garage and Turbo comes out surprised by what happened. We go to the day of the competition and they all get ready to enter the track except for Cheat, who won't watch the race, but a stupid kid comes and takes him by force and sits him in the viewer's seats and even locks him in a cup, meaning that in the end he will watch and watch. The commentator introduces all the contestants and all the media gathers around Gani, until Tito enters in his car and causes chaos in the place and draws the attention of the media. Those who gather around his car take pictures with Turbo. The tournament owner announces the start of the preparations, and Chet is unable to see his brother at this moment because he knows that he will be trampled by the cars and die. Tito encourages his racer Turbo, and Turbo is still upset from his collision with Gani. The race begins, and we see Gani leading the race, and Turbo is helpless, being carried by every car for a while. If he continues like this, it will actually be like his brother told him. He tries as much as he can to avoid the cars, and Turbo goes on the brake to fix himself, but his team is completely confused, so the Snail's team intervenes and fixes things for him. They yell at him and get lost, and tell him to stop acting like cars. You are a snail. We see Turbo racing in a completely different way after hearing 2 words from Whiplash. He starts racing like a snail, passing under cars and taking advantage of his small size. He also gets very close to Gani in the front. Chet is happy with his brother and encourages him as well, but as soon as Gani notices that Turbo is close to him, he gets worried and decides to use a method that is not at all honest. Turbo pushes himself toward the wall until his shell breaks. Turbo gets dizzy from the shock and can't race or see anything in front of him. Tito's friends are worried about Turbo and think that he will eventually be eliminated from the tournament before he dies. But Turbo doesn't give up and continues the race, pushing himself, and starts to lose his strength little by little because of what happened to his shell. But he pushes himself despite all the difficulties and reaches Gani, who decides to do it a second time and tries to push Turbo. But this time Turbo learns and gets out of it and leads the race. In the midst of everyone's happiness, Gani senses the danger that he will lose to a snail. He says, "On me and my enemies," and goes to Turbo and pushes him in front of him, causing all the cars behind him to collide. Turbo also escapes with difficulty, and he too gets injured before reaching the finish line. And Turbo tries to complete this distance and win, but he has lost all his strength and feels hopeless. He goes into hiding inside his shell, but Chet still doesn't like the situation and decides that he must stand by his brother at all times. He takes himself out of the cup and runs quickly, grabbing his balloon and flying with it. In this way, he will not be able to reach Turbo, so their friends will enter and bring the crows and fly with them until they reach Chit, and they will also reach Turbo. As soon as he arrives, he gets angry with him and tells him, "Get up and finish what you started. You are fast without any superpowers," and he actually gets a turbo boost and comes out of his shell and moves at his normal speed in order to reach the finish line. Gani pulls his car to be the first to reach the finish line. It is very difficult for him to reach it, so he tries to step on Turbo with his feet, but in the end, Turbo reaches the finish line and wins the race against Gani. Tito and all his friends gather and cheer for Turbo, who won. The media gather around them and publish the news in all the newspapers. The news of Snail winning a car racing championship. Tito and his friends, they become famous after what happened. They get a lot of customers, and they also hold racing snail championships in which Chet participates as their doctor. They all live happily because of Turbo.